Drug abuse, also known as substance abuse, is a problem worldwide. In Nigeria, statistics from the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) indicate that 40% of the nation's youth use hard drugs, with the northwestern part of the country having the highest rate. The situation, however, seems to have taken a new dimension in Keffi, Nasarawa State, as youth comprising of women, girls, and young boys of ages 15 to 35 are involved in this act. This is Ngozi Pius. She is known as a dealer of hard drugs in Keffi. Right by her gate is a peephole where youth who come to patronize her beckon for whatever brand of drugs they want. She admits to selling hard drugs to youth in the area, and her business appears to be thriving.
Cannabis.
Don't you know that it has effects on the youth and every other person that takes it?
I don't know. People that are bringing it, we call them on phone now. I say small. At times we feel make like 5,000, 10,000.
Have you tested it before? How long have you?
No.
Don't test it, but you allow others to buy.
How long have you been selling this?
It don't take.
How many years?
It don't reach about 3 to 4 years or 5 years.
Her backyard also serves as a hideout for hard drugs users. One of the youth who was bold enough to speak on camera tells us why he takes hard drugs.
Once if my promotion is high, I take 10 a day. Now if my promotion is not higher, I only take 5. Then if I want to do with other people, I take 2.
The rise in cases of drug and substance abuse in the area is the reason these youth and elders have led a campaign to pharmacies and drug stores. Their message is clear: stop drug abuse and build a better society.
Our youth are all bedeviled with this menace, and I believe this is due to lack of, things to do. We have a lot of graduates that have nothing to do, a lot of, talented individuals and youth that, are talented, but they don't have enough, support in terms of harnessing that talent. So I think these are all factors that, could lead to such.
The issue of, kidnapping, Boko Haram, armed robbery, and all the vices that is being perpetuated by the youth is linked to this. And that is why we have to come together to see how we can salvage the situation.
The picture created by the number of youth said to be using hard drugs has very disturbing implications for the nation's socio-economic development. The general consensus is that the community and religious leaders must sensitize people of the dangers associated with this menace.
Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. News just in has it that the Senator Dino Melai has arrived in Benue State and is going to be arraigned in a Lokoja High Court. Yesterday he was granted bail in Kogi State. Yes, he'll be arraigned in a Lokoja High Court. Yesterday he was granted bail in Abuja and then rearrested, and he arrived in Lokoja today in an ambulance to be arraigned in a high court there. But we still have here in our studio Dr. Hakeem Baba Ahmed, and we're talking about the efforts of the legislature to stem the tide of drug abuse in the country. Dr. Baba Ahmed, you were talking about the fallout of that roundtable you had.
I was trying to bring us up to date in terms of the efforts of the Senate in drafting 2 major bills, one dealing with mental health and the other one dealing with more effective control of drugs. We are at a stage where these bills are just about ready to be presented and debated and adopted. They would, in a way, address a lot of the loopholes that exist in terms of the legislations behind regulatory and enforcement agencies, as well as new issues and developments that have occurred. A lot of us don't realize that a lot of the drugs that are being abused on substantial basis are not covered by some of the laws that we have. A lot of them are actually legal. You can buy codeine over the counter. It's not illegal to buy codeine until now that we are hearing about prescription. A lot of these drugs are brought into the country for use under strict prescription regulations, but they are abused, and they are here in large quantities.
You know what's fascinating about when I was able to go through the contents of those two bills? The National Health Bill is now stipulating that there should be standardized, psychiatric facility, faculties in each state of the Federation. Mm-hmm. If that goes around and we're able to address this gap, as I understand it now, the current ratio in the country is 1.6 million people to one psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. If we're able to bridge that gap, who's going to ultimately fund that according to the bill? Is it going to be the state government? Is it going to be the federal government? How is that funded?
Well, the bill envisages a situation where a lot of collaboration exists, and it encourages that collaboration where it doesn't exist. Clearly, you need all tiers of government to be involved in this. And at this stage, most of the facilitations and the resources targeted at rehabilitation, treatment of drug victims are owned by the federal government. There's a huge scope for states to get involved in this. A lot of them are willing to do that. So what the bill does is to assign responsibilities to levels of government in terms of who should do what. We've also identified, the bill has also identified a huge number of initiatives that need to be taken. For instance, you need massive increases in number of people who deal with drug issues. You need to increase professionalism in terms of dealing with that. But what is important, I think, is that the bills will literally reinvent the national concern behind the need to deal with this epidemic.
But if you look at the other bill, the National Drug Control Bill, the legislation is essentially establishing a central mechanism that would coordinate public health authorities with NAFDAC, with some of these other institutions, NDLEA. Who is going to, kind of oversee that central mechanism, and how exactly would it function?
Well, again, one of the current weaknesses here, is that you have agencies, enforcement, regulatory agencies, professional bodies that operate virtually in silos. And that's a major problem. You have problems that cannot be addressed by any of these agencies because they metamorphose every day, they change their nature. What the bill does here is to more clearly define responsibilities in such a manner that each agency, each professional body recognizes its own duties, as well as establish linkages, so that at some level, everybody recognizes the fact that you require improved synergies. Ministry of Health has massive responsibilities in this. The agencies of the Ministry of Health have responsibilities. But the professional bodies have made huge inputs in this legislation. A lot of what is in that bill has come from the professional bodies. Nigerian Medical Association, as I said, Pharmaceutical Association of Nigeria, Psychiatrists Association of Nigeria. NDLEA and NAFDAC have been involved in the drafting all the way through.
One of the fallouts of the recent report that implicated a pharmaceutical company named Enzo concerning the proliferation of these controlled substances, codeine syrups, was that there is an institutional, or should I say a corporate conspiracy to sell in mass quantity these controlled substances to those who should not be receiving them. What does your bill, what do